the airport.
Here in the Superdome. I mean, that bus was ripe when we got on it. Just from us. Because we hadn't bathed in 6 days. And so we got these rooms, and by the time I got to taking my shower, all the water was cold. The hot water was cold. So I knew that everyone was, and when the stuff came off, you get up front. You could peel it off like you peel off shrink wrap. That's how it felt. And none of us could get clean enough. I think we showered for days. And then I get a call the following day from the Secretary of Health, the Commissioner of Health of the state of Texas. Dr. Franklin, I would like to help you. And in the background, Dr. Kevin Stevens, who's head of the health department, was working with the CDC to make an exchange for a place for us to rest while we did some work for the CDC. And we did. And we ended up with 10 computers, and we ended up doing surveillance in the shelters. And we ended up trying to help avoid diarrhea outbreaks and blah, blah, blah. And we had little jackets that said New Orleans Health Department on the back. Remember, Khadijah saw some of them. And when we walked around, people got hey, I mean, the connection was obvious. So the idea that the IASPR is a very interesting set of discussions, but how many? I mean, as soon as I get home, I get to work in this thing that I never heard of before called an EOC. Who knows what an EOC is? I mean, most people do now, right? Any clue beforehand? I mean, unless you'd had a disaster course. EOC? Okay. So I come home and I find out that I'm in the midst of chaos. But it's actually chaos that's good chaos. And the military is walking around, and this is all like a movie. I'm feeling like this is Arnold. I'm in an Arnold movie. And Khadijah may not remember this because Khadijah was so tired, right? I have this poor international student who comes over here to have like an educational experience, and you know, she volunteers to work in the Superdome. She's in Dallas, and she's like, and bless her heart, she lived through the whole thing, and she did extremely well. But I'm the leader of this thing. You got a leader question? What leaders in public health? I learned sometimes from followers. I learned sometimes from guys who would say, Doc, what do you want me to do now? Well, what? You got something? And he says, well, there's this over here, I think. Okay, go. And you learn how to kind of manage whatever it is that you need to try to figure out what you do in a disaster. So that changed my idea of leader. Now, I mean, George Silver, Art Visseltier, John Thompson. The reason why I really love John Thompson is that nobody ever knew that John Thompson was a nurse. John Thompson was not a doctor. He was a doctor of public health, but he was a nurse. And he smoked a cigar, and he had any of you see pictures of him, he had a big handlebar mustache. And he and I curse about the same amount. I'm really behaving today. Khadijah and Tammy will tell you. And he would go, they built this effing hospital with elevators in it that are too small for the beds. Now, how stupid could that be? You know, and he's saying this to foreigners, of course, and not at all being concerned with any cultural issue. It's like, you can't get the bed in the elevator. So, you know, you actually learn from and admire a lot of people. What actually also happened is that when you look at this, is that you learn from and admire people who you don't even know are around you. And what they got in. Like, in terms of our relationship, I didn't know you existed. And you find out what the stock of people is, because all of a sudden you're in the middle of having discussions that are related to survival, as opposed to, well, I'm just teaching a class, or I'm just working on my postdoc, or it's a whole different thing. Where am I going now? Let's see. What have I learned from Katrina? Being alive is really good. Antidepressants are fabulous. Not living in a trailer is a blessing. politicians have really a tough job. You can make friends with people who are your worst enemies, and enemies with people who want to take advantage of you. How to figure out who is a carpetbagger? Like the guy who I have his tools and he has $700 of my money while I'm trying to wait for him to fix something in my house. He ain't getting his tools back. I'll tell you that right now. How to stay calm when people give you different instructions. Same person gives you different instructions on how to fill out a project worksheet. They give you different Tammy's trying to work through now the other end of the project worksheet. They give you different instructions. Everybody's got authority. And you go, okay, and you do it. And then you wait. And then you go, why isn't anything happening? Oh, didn't I tell you? A lot of that. What I've learned from Katrina is that data-driven is a great thing to try to achieve, but really, it ain't everything. 5,000 people showed up at the zoo. We gave out 1,300 pairs of glasses. I don't know how many millions of teeth we pulled. 25 people went to the hospital out of 27. One of those was a cardiac arrest. And I know for a fact that we kept beds open for Mardi Gras because we had the zoo. And we had people as far away as Mississippi drive here for the zoo. And northern Louisiana. So, and what I've also learned from the Katrina experience is that you have to watch every movie that you have to watch movies and read books. And the reason why you watch movies and you read books is so that you can actually have something else outside your life, outside your regular life, that you can really learn from, even if you don't know it, even if it's subconscious. I'll give you an example. Khadijah may remember this. We're in the bottom of the Hyatt Hotel. And you guys been in the Hyatt Hotel? And there's the elevators? Okay. So there are the elevators, and I'm standing about here. And here are the doors. And this is the state group. And there's the City of New Orleans group. And there's the foreign students. And there's some other people scattered around. And all of a sudden, a group of guys, big, strong, strapping, handsome young men in military uniform with camouflage on, come walking in like firemen, focused. And one of them has a tripod. I want you to tell me now what that means. They've got weapons, all of them. One of them has a tripod. Huh? The sharpshooter. He's an anti-sniper sniper. Okay? Now, we had managed to get from the back end of the arena because we were told that we had to run away because of snipers. And then they didn't come back and get us. So I had to think of another movie then. And we had finally gotten to the Hyatt. And so I did this. I went and I looked and I went, holy shit. Because there's a reality of life that feels like a movie. Like, don't you remember when the Twin Towers came down? It took a minute to say, oh, Arnold is coming. And then I thought, we are really, the level of risk we're at is incredible because now we've got another element. And at this point, we're incommunicado, so we have no idea of what's going on with Charity in Tulane. Now, after that, I decided I needed a bath. So I went over to City Hall, which now had this much water, to get my computer because I like my screensaver. No, because I can't, this is my brain. And we also found that the use of text messaging was the only way that people could communicate through the 504 codes on the way to Dallas.